Hi, good morning, everybody. We have hit the 11 o'clock mark. My name is Marco Robertson. I'm with ATARC. Welcome to ATARC's Zero Trust Lab presentation series. Today we have two vendors presenting, ISEC7 and Netscope, and I believe we are going to start with ISEC7. So we have 90 minutes, just to remind you. Take it away.
Okay. All right. Now I can share my screen. Share. Is that, can everyone see the screen? Is that coming through correctly?
Yeah, I can see it.
Yes.
Okay, fantastic. So thanks everyone for taking the time today. My name is Jimmy Black. I'm with ISEC7. I am our Vice President of Public Sector Sales on the civilian side of things. So any civilian agencies I support, and that falls underneath me, as well as some of our state and local customers as well. On the line with me is Michael Brandt. Michael's our Global Chief Strategy Officer and President for ISEC7 in the United States. Just a quick word on ISEC7 and who we are. ISEC7 in the Americas, we're based in Baltimore, Maryland, just north of all the folks in DC. We do have a global presence with offices all over the world covering EMEA, APAC, et cetera. So we can support all different regions, all different time zones, et cetera. Our focus as a company is strictly in the area of really end user computing in the digital workspace. And we develop partnerships, obviously for our own products, but also from a services and consulting perspective, really with the best of breed digital workspace, UEM, endpoint detection response products that are out there. For integration purposes, for customers, as well as our own deployments. We really have two products that I'll talk about today. The first one I'm going to spend the majority of the time on, and that's really what we're going to demo to you today, is Sphere, which is really a mobile infrastructure monitoring and management tool. That's designed to monitor all the different components of your messaging infrastructure for security purposes, compliance purposes, uptime, downtime, and really make things easier from an administrative perspective for our users to manage all the different components that go into that infrastructure, whether or not they be on-premise, in the cloud, or some hybrid version of that. The second one is a product called Mobile Exchange Delegate. This is our mobile email client for iOS and Android devices. Touching real quickly on it, I'm not going to demo it today because I want to focus on Sphere. But really what MED is designed to do is give users access to, everything on the Exchange side of things PIM related. So mail, contacts, calendar, public folders, notes, tasks. And really the biggest use case that a lot of people purchase it for is that it supports the delegated access and administration functionality within Exchange. So for users that need access to accounts in addition to theirs, be it email, be it calendars, take your pick, that you necessarily don't want to expose the login credentials for, you can leverage delegated administration from Exchange, give them permissions to access those folders and do so within a single email app in addition to their own information. Some of the other key points to it, particularly in the federal space that folks are looking for, will support multiple SMIME inboxes, Talked about the delegated side of things. We can also support email classification. So you can designate emails for different classifications, including having multiple classifications, multiple accounts, multiple domains, etc., all within that app. Sending on behalf or for, so those types of impersonation services. Very easy to deploy from an admin perspective. You don't necessarily have to do much besides deploy it through a UEM. Myself as the user, if I want somebody to have access to my calendar, my email, I can just delegate that access out within my own Outlook client, and they'll be able to pull it in through their application. It does support cert-based authentication as well, and it's wrapped with the leading UEM tools that are out there. You can get integrated with those, so you can take advantage of obviously some of the, data loss prevention policies and security that comes associated with the UEM tools that are out there. This is an architecture slide. Don't need to spend a whole lot of time on it. It can be deployed without a UEM type of tool. I would guess that 99% or probably 100% of the folks on here do have some UEM tool. So it is integrated and wrapped with the leading solutions out there. So BlackBerry, Mobile Iron, Workspace ONE, Intune, etc. It's all wrapped within their SDK and can be pushed out and deployed with those. To connect to either Exchange or Office 365. As I said, it can support multiple accounts, multiple domains, multiple infrastructures for any of your users. So they can pull all that information in and have it available to them with one application. Jumping forward and outside of MED, now I'm going to switch gears and talk about Sphere, which is going to be the main crux of the demo today. So when we talk about Sphere with our customers, the things that we typically hear from, mobility teams, messaging teams, security teams, etc., is that they need visibility for messaging from their back end down to the device. They know what's going on in their infrastructure, but not necessarily can confirm it. They want to prevent outages before they occur, see the security posture on devices, what's going on in that infrastructure. And also from a VIP perspective, monitor our VIPs and end users closely so you don't necessarily overburden the help desk with calls coming in from them. Beyond that, a lot on the help desk, helping them troubleshoot problems as they come in, getting issues resolved more quickly when they arise, or even preventing them before they come in. So those are the types of things that Sphere is designed to solve. It's a monitoring management tool for all of your mobile messaging and communication infrastructure. So it's going to sit on top of basically anything from the back end and monitor all that, everything down to the device through, Exchange, through your proxies, through the carrier network, etc., and the health of those connections in that environment. So it's going to gather data using things like web services, SNMP, WMI, PowerShell, database and log parsing, pattern matching, et cetera, to give you a display of what's happening in that infrastructure. This slide kind of gives you an overview of the most common things that we see. So obviously it's going to be Exchange, Office 365, email. We have people accessing file shares that they want to monitor the health of, web servers, things like that. Your UEM tools, so the management consoles, but also the proxies that they have in place that those devices are connecting to. Down there at the bottom, you've got your kind of antivirus or EDR threat detection type tools. So your checkpoints, Imperiums, Cylance, lookouts, etc. We'll pull information in from those. your firewalls, your networks, and then, increasing in prevalence is IoT devices, as those are incorporated into network topologies and infrastructures, things like smart buttons that maybe field users have, anything like that. So we're going to pull that information in. So some of the installation components that go into this, there's basically four big components that provide various functionality in this. So the first is going to be a SQL database. So that's basically with a core information storage for the whole system. We have a monitor service. That's the core monitoring component. It's installed as a Windows service on a network host with a Windows operating system. That's going to parse information from remote systems using protocols like HTTP, SQL, SMB, or SNMP. A web application that provides all the monitoring information from the Sphere database and the management options. That's run as a bundled Apache Tomcat 8.5 web server. Can also be run as a dedicated standalone instance. And then an agent service as well. The agent's a small client that's going to be installed as an ISEC7 Sphere agent Windows service on a network host with a Windows operating system. It'll provide information about the host, necessary data, which is available only locally on hosts, like Windows registry, log files, WMI, PowerShell, command line. It can also be used to access other hosts on the network, like access to network shares, mail servers, where you don't necessarily want to install additional components. It's got a pretty small impact on a host performance. Shares information only with the monitor service via SSL, encrypted connections. So you need at least one instance of this Sphere agent in order to utilize the full range of monitoring that we can provide. It can be spread over several agent instances to balance the loads on your applicable servers. Essentially, what we recommend is we install these instances directly on the monitored system, like a UEM, like your UEM servers. The agents can also monitor their local server as well as one or more remote servers like Exchange. From an architecture standpoint and how that actually looks, this is actually a real-time architecture that I pulled from one of our customers. This is a large bank. So in terms of the use cases that they gave for deployment, kind of a combination of scenario 1 and 2 here, where you have a central headquarters and then remote offices located actually Oconus. So you can see this is a headquarters in North America, and then remote offices in Asia Pac and EMEA. The bulk of the users are for this particular bank are in the US. This is an example of an infrastructure with high availability and redundancy built in. So you can see you've got, in one instance, your monitor and web service on a box here. That's talking to your UEM infrastructure, all that messaging infrastructure. You've got your agent. You've got your cold site over here if something does fail, so we'll fail over to that. And then it's talking back to APAC and EMEA, who have their own agents installed, and those are basically pushing information back to the monitor for a centralized console to view their global infrastructure. As I mentioned, this is a commercial customer, also applicable to our largest federal customer, defense customer that has a central location, as well as regionally deployed instances. as far as like a system requirements and hardware perspective, these are actually the requirements that we gave that customer for what they had as far as resources. From a user perspective, this is roughly 110,000 users. You can see Americas, they got 100K, and then about 5,000 in each of the regional locations. So when you're looking to deploy this on-prem, that's typically what you're going to look at for an instance of that size. Obviously, as we go into a cloud or hybrid version, you can start peeling some of this back, especially from an HA and DR perspective, just because, for cloud providers, obviously they're taking care of that setup. So that is, from a resource perspective, effectively what we'll look at. When we talk zero trust, stole this graphic from Jerry and what he gave in the kickoff meeting. So I've highlighted the areas in here that we cover with our two products. Between Sphere and the monitoring side of things, we're going to be heavily weighted toward the right side of this this graphic. MED covers some of the stuff down from a data perspective. So obviously being able to classify emails and segmenting data in emails. MED will cover some of those use cases. And then the rest of it really is going to be Sphere functionality, either that Sphere does directly or from our integration with some of the UEM and mobile threat defense tools that are out there. So, like device authorization, we're pulling that in, hardware, software inventory, compliance enforcement, we can do that via MDMs where Sphere is hooked into that solution, telling it what to do through an API. We can manage various cloud-based tools, collate all that information into a single console where you can see it all. We can also do some application whitelisting, allowing applications, seeing what applications are on user devices, authenticating the users actually within our own tool. We support MFA, role-based authentication, or multi-factor authentication, role-based access control, things like that. And then again, heavily on the right side when it comes to logging, reporting, monitoring, auditing, et cetera, because we are pulling all of that information in, storing it in our database so that you can, report on that information, sort it, view it how you need to for monitoring, auditing purposes, either looking back historically or in real time to see what's going on in your environment exactly then. Some of the differentiators that we believe Sphere provides when we talk to our customers. So the holistic ecosystem management side of things. So, engaging all those deployed servers through one management API and viewing it in a single console, we feel is one of our stronger points. The proactive monitoring, so that end-to-end server and infrastructure status, monitoring security posture, your VMs, any of the network elements like load balancers, firewalls, pulling that all in together in real time is a big differentiator for us. So beyond that, the anomaly and outage reporting. So you'll see that if something does go wrong or if there is an outage, we give you essentially a path to resolution and root cause analysis for what's going wrong. And then if the system does detect anomalies, there's some artificial intelligence built in that I'll talk to that can kind of normalize data and over time show you that this is not normal in my environment. Traffic's typically you know, XYZ over a certain period of time and it's dropped, we can alert on that, and then troubleshooting that information directly from Sphere, so that you reduce that downtime, make sure users are up, and then over time, obviously optimizing that ecosystem for usage, user check-ins, application deployment. What, you know, for example, what applications are my users using and how often are they using them, is where Sphere really starts to differentiate itself. As far as licensing is concerned, very, very simple licensing model for both Mobile Exchange Delegate and Sphere. The tool is licensed, the tools are licensed per user. It's a separate license for each. I put our GSA pricing in here. That's our GSA schedule number. So this is publicly available pricing for Sphere. It's $946 a user a year. For MED, it's just under $20 a user a year. And with that, I will exit out of here and jump into the demo. If there were not any questions that came up during the PowerPoint. So let me jump in. Looks like it logged me out, so I'm going to log back in here. So for this demo, as far as focus and the scenarios that were given, given the monitoring nature of this, the largest scenario that we're really going to come into play with is going to be scenario 10. So users accessing an agency system, having connectivity issues that are, you know, kicking them off their system and troubleshooting that. Some of the other ones that were given as far as extra credit and listed out there that I'll speak to as well and will come into play are, you know, the monitoring capabilities for, you know, on-premise, cloud, or hybrid systems, continuous monitoring and evaluation, IoT, and migration from on-premise systems to cloud-based systems. So this is the first screen that you're going to see when you log into Sphere. It's an overview screen designed to give you quickly a high-level snapshot of what's going on in your environment. What are the issues I need to deal with right away, either from a potential performance standpoint or from a security standpoint. So right here in the middle side, you guys can see, you know, these are some of the widgets that we're going to give you. So your top applications, device types, management server types. So for those environments that have multiple UEM solutions, you have, you know, other, you know, threat defense or EDR type solutions. We'll pull that information in here so you can see who's on BlackBerry, who's on Mobile Iron, who's on, you know, even Lookouts, Imperium, et cetera, as we add those modules and integrations in here. Down here across the bottom, you can see from a security perspective some of the things you need to start taking advantage of and solve right away. So from a compliance perspective, you know, how many devices do I have in violation of problems? This could be a policy within a UEM tool that device is violating, but it could also be what we call tamper detection. And that would be something that, you know, we gather from that device or that we gather that changed on that device that could lead us to believe that something is wrong with it. So think like a device goes into roaming, a SIM card gets swapped out, an application file size changes, those types of things. So we're going to tell you who's in violation, either of policies, or are there any devices under tamper detection? You can see your users and the issues that are affecting them. Critical, good, bad. There's a lot of unknown in there. You can see it looks like we're having a problem with one of our hosts today, so that's probably why it's unknown. But you could get in there and solve your users that are having those critical issues right away and right off the bat. You can see who hasn't been active in a while, as well as security patch levels. All of these are clickable links. So if I wanted to get in and see my list of devices that are not compliant, I could see those. I could click into the user, and I could start taking action and troubleshooting this, or reaching out to the user, or resolving why this device is not compliant directly from Sphere. Some of the other things we're going to show you down the left side and across the top here. So this is your overall infrastructure view. We've color coded it. Green is obviously good. There's no issues. Yellow is going to be a warning. Red means there's a critical issue that you need to get in there to deal with. So we'll show it to you in a couple of different ways. The first is this really global infrastructure view. It's from this perspective, it's going to look a little messy, obviously, because we have a lot of different UEM tools built into this demo environment. But this will show you what's connected to what, allow you to map it out, show you the status of the connections between everything. You can drag and drop, you can zoom in. This is a dynamic application. You can expand things out, click on the servers. So there are folks that just strictly have this up, this view up across their screen from an admin perspective. And if something goes red, a connection drops, they know there's something that they need to get in here and troubleshoot right away. We'll also give that to you in a dashboard view. You can kind of think of this view as a to-do list for errors and issues you need to get in, you need to go into and kind of resolve, like a checklist. And clear those out, get everything back from either warning or critical to a good scenario. And then down the side here, as I said, we give you that traffic light view of all your different infrastructure components, heavily focused on UEM, obviously. So you can see I've got in my specific demo environment here, I've got BlackBerry UEM, I've got Citrix, actually I have BlackBerry Cylance product in here, Exchange, Office 365, Mobile Iron, Workspace ONE, but you can see some of the other things as well, such as my firewalls, my web servers, generic servers, routers, etc. All that information is right down the side here. These you expand out, so you can click into the specifics for the components here. I'm just going to show BlackBerry because it's the first one. Fortunately, everything is good right now. But just to show you, for example, the type of information that we can see at the server level, if something were to go wrong. These are one of my UEM servers. You can see, all the information associated with that server, the endpoint response times, what endpoints are associated with it, certificates, and then the various BlackBerry services that are running on it. So if one of these were to stop, you can restart it from here. You can stop and start it from here. You can see information on the host, as well as the proxy service, app connections, all of that information at a high level, you'll be able to see. So if something does go wrong with this server, we're going to tell you that is exactly what's going wrong with your environment. You can get in there and troubleshoot it right away. Similarly, with Exchange, SQL, etc., you don't necessarily need to, when you start getting those help desk calls or or whatever, you don't need to go around, trying to figure out, is it Exchange, is it SQL, is it the UEM? Sphere will tell you exactly what that is. With this server across the top here, I can also see my relationships, so I can see what users are connecting to this server and who might be affected by it. So I can get messaging out to them. And I can also see the events and logs associated with it. Obviously, this one was having some DEP issues today, so I can see that. These are all filterable, so you can filter it by time. You can filter it by event type. You guys can see down here some of the different filters, all the different filters we can apply. So it could be anything from, there's like a service problem, but if you scroll down, you can see, there's compliance problems, there's security issues, enrollment issues, all these different things that we can alert on for this server that would affect those users that are having issues and potentially calling in with those. For general events, if you want to see all the events associated with your environment, you can also see that across the top here. These are all filterable by time, filterable by, is it an SNMP problem, a Microsoft Office 365 problem, syslog problem. You can see all those events here as well for the those folks that are concerned with that. Some of the other common things that folks come to us with and want to see are going to be things like Exchange and Office 365. So I've got my Exchange servers built in here. So for Exchange, I can see the server details, the host details, active sync stats, active sync protocol. So I can see, emails, calendar events made, all that information associated with a specific Exchange server. Similarly, I can see my users, I can see my events, just as you could with that BlackBerry server. And then with Office 365 environments, it's going to look a little bit different, obviously, because things are cloud-based for Office 365. But we're going to give you, for example, a security score for your environment. We're going to give you information on the users, again, that are connecting to that environment. The services running with it. So you can see we're restoring service, and there's an issue with Intune right now that's being investigated, trying to get to a root cause of it. And then for that security score here, we'll give you a breakdown of what the issues are, why we gave you that, potential score of 20, so you can get in there and obviously bolster the security profile associated with your Office 365 environment. I won't click on the other UEMs in here just for the sake of time. If anybody else has, Mobile Iron or Workspace ONE or wants to see those, or really any other information for other components that we pull in here, just let me know, and we can set up a separate time to go through it. But you can see, we've got a Mobile Iron Cloud environment, we got an on-premise environment, we've got a Workspace ONE Cloud, Workspace ONE on-premise environment. So all this information we'll pull together for you. Now drilling down to the specific users, and when a user calls in with issues, either to say a help desk or to an admin, we give you the ability to search for that specific user and then start troubleshooting why they may be having issues. So I will just pull up one, for example. If I click on that endpoints tab, I can search for a user in here. Say, for example, somebody named Julia calls in. I can give a search for Julia, pull her up here, and I can see all the different information related to her. So, for example, here she's got 2 UEM profiles associated with her. On UEM, I could click on Julia and I can see all the information for what she is connecting to. So I can see the relationship information for her. If tamper detection is enabled for her, it's not. I can set custom categories. The status of that device, is it compliant? Is it not compliant? What server she's connecting to. She shouldn't be having any issues with that. Those are all green, so I don't need to worry about that. As well as the status of connections to, things like email, EWS, etc. I can see the specific device details, the OS level, the applications associated with it, any other relationships she had. So if she had an Exchange relationship, I'd be able to see that and see the Exchange server she was connecting to, and start troubleshooting that issue potentially. And then I can also take action on it directly from here. So you could do things like reset a password. You could even move them between IT policies, assuming those permissions were given to you as an admin perspective, move them between groups, lock that device, reset the password, anything like that. You can take those sort of actions on that user directly from here. So again, all we're trying to do is make it very easy from an admin perspective to see everything associated with the environment, pull it into one place, identify any problems, and get in and troubleshoot those so that you got less downtime for users and you spend less time scratching your head trying to figure out what's going on and what's wrong. We can set specific user monitoring configurations within here for different things. These thresholds are all customizable. So if I were to go to monitoring here, you guys can see these are where we set specific users that we want to look for. Maybe these are VIPs, for example. So, we want to keep our data for 30 days looking back, but we can also see some specific information on that device, such as memory, battery life, location, last activity, is it in roaming? Is there tamper detection? Is email flowing? You might not necessarily want to see this for all users, but for example, VIPs, you can set VIP groups that you might want to see that for, because, if, who knows, if VIP calls in, you can say, hey, your device died or something like that. Has the location not checked in over a period of time? Has it not synced with active sync over a period of time? So you don't have people, executives, et cetera, coming down on folks for issues that they're having. We can also set alerts that are going to be going out for a variety of issues, problems that you'll see here. So tons of alerts that can go out related to your UEM, the system itself. If I click into this, for example, you can see all the ones associated with, this is a specific UEM server. These are all customizable, so you can build tribal knowledge into it. But you can do it for your Office 365 environment. You can do it for your mobile iron servers. Take your pick. We can build a variety of alerts in here that go out. If a system's down, if something falls out of compliance, we can trigger alerts on that. We can also send alerts to end users. So if you need an end user to, if a device hasn't checked in over a period of time, you can build alerts in here that'll go out and say, hey, get your device checked in. From an enrollment perspective, we can send alerts out about, activations. Same thing with migrations. If you're switching from, one solution to another or going core to cloud, all sorts of different alerts we can trigger that go out for the issues. One of the other things that we can view from a compliance standpoint is the policies that are applied to these devices, because we are pulling that in from UEM tools. So you can see right here for, BlackBerry, for Mobile Iron, for Workspace ONE, even for Citrix, for each of those different environments, you can see information on it. So you can see the specifics of the environment, the groups, the policies. Same thing for Mobile Iron. Again, same thing from Workspace ONE. One thing that's really cool from a just like an auditing and monitoring standpoint at the admin level is you can see those policies that are applied to the devices. You can see their groups. And if I can click into this, I can actually see the specifics of each of those policies. I can export this. For example, if I need to demonstrate, STIG compliance or something like that, and show somebody, hey, I do have this specific policy configured. This report is exportable. And you can also compare it between environments. If you were migrating from one platform to another, or you just wanted to, demonstrate, okay, we are compliant in this. We want to make sure we didn't miss anything in a different environment. You can compare those here, and I could actually literally compare these with policies in another environment that I know is compliant right within Sphere. We can also lock these policies in so that if somebody were to change either by accident or a rogue user, right in here, Sphere would track that. If in the UEM tool, an admin went in there and changed a policy, Sphere would track that. We can get an alert out on that, and we would show it in here. And then finally, on the area of asset management within Sphere here, you can see the hardware associated with your users on what do you have. So you could filter this by, is it a device? Is it a SIM card? Is it referenced? Is this device that actually managed by a UEM tool, or is it not? The checkbox shows it is managed. Because we can see that in a UEM. So you can do some hardware tracking and inventory management directly in Sphere as well. I'm going to switch environments here quickly just because from a permission standpoint, I'll be able to see it in this other one. But one of the things we do provide for users is a self-service portal. So users can get in here and actually order devices, take some action on their devices themselves. They can see the device information. The cool thing about this is that if you're an organization that has multiple solutions, multiple UEM tools within your environment, this can be a common self-service portal for all of your users that they can log into. So just from an organizational training and education standpoint, it's one portal that they'll be able to see, completely customizable. This could be your logo, et cetera, so they're familiar with it. But they can also order their devices. If they want to get a new one, they'd be able to see what's available to them to order. They can order it straight from here and get those devices shipped out to them. So from asset management, asset ordering, allowed devices, you can set that up directly within here. Jumping back here, this is actually a dev environment that's going to be our newest release coming out. One thing that will be brand new to it is from a vulnerability and CVE perspective. One of the things you'll be able to see as I click through the Exchange server here, this is actually, you'll see this is very similar. So you can see your server, your host details, your active sync stats. But you'll be able to see any CVEs associated with the software in your environment. We'll pull that information in. Again, based on the idea that we're just going to make it very easy for you to see all the issues, anything you need to take action on directly in here. We're going to incorporate that vulnerability information in. So as a sysadmin, I can see if there are any new CVEs or issues or patches or things like that available to take action on directly from here. And then the last item that I'm going to touch on is the idea of migration. So we can support migrations from essentially one UEM tool to another in an automated fashion because we are hooked into the APIs of each of them or all the main ones. We can automate the process of unenrolling a device within one environment and re-enrolling that device in another environment. So this can be a legacy platform to a new environment, but it can also be for any agencies that are moving from an on-prem environment to a cloud environment. We can support that as well. And we can do that in a number of different ways. Coming back into here, the first is simply email transformation. So maybe a little bit more applicable in a corporate environment where, say, mergers and acquisitions are more common. But say, ABC company acquires Acme company, and they need to start onboarding all those Acme employees onto their UEM and as well as their mail server. We can set email transformation rules to switch that domain of that user from acme.com to abc.com directly within here, from that source pattern to the target pattern. We can also set conditions and phases for that migration and that enrollment. So I have one in here for devices that are enrolled within DEP. Obviously, you need to switch the ownership status. So one of the phases of that migration, when it actually starts the process of moving from one to the other, is switching that DEP ownership from one UEM to another. So we will set those phase conditions in here prior to doing the migration. And then from a migration standpoint, it's actually a very simple process. You just simply need to define the users that you want to move. I'm going to pick on one here. So this is BlackBerry, for example. I'm just going to pick one, and I want to move this user. It's as simple as defining the target environment. So if I hit migrate, I would select the environment that I want to move them to. Right here, move into execute. And then what you can do is you can schedule that migration, and you can do this in mass. I only picked one. Typically, we look at about 500 a day. But you schedule when you want to start it. You can either do it immediately or you can do it later. You can notify them either through those notifications that I showed earlier, or you can set another notification in here. You would set those DEP phases. In here, you could start actually, depending on how you're doing it, you can either start the deactivation and reactivation all at once or do so sequentially. Set your phase conditions. You're going to want to wipe the device. And then you would map the policies and groups between the two environments. Right within here, there would be drop downs for it. And you can then start the migration and move them from, again, that on-premise environment to the cloud, or that target to the legacy, or that legacy to target environment. And then also do so, obviously, while monitoring the health of the system, because as you increase users on one system, you're going to start putting load on it. You're going to start putting, email load on your bandwidth, et cetera, as email syncs. So while you're doing that migration, one of the, side benefits of Sphere is that it's going to monitor the health of both of those environments to make sure that, one does not fail during that process. So that is all I had for the demo. Were there any questions that came across?
Hey, Jimmy, it looks like there's some questions in the chat.
All right. Let's see. Sorry, I missed that. Let's see what we have here. In the concept of true zero trust, how do all those issues impact the trust level? And shouldn't they be blocked already? I'm sorry, because I wasn't sure what I was talking about when you sent that. So,
yeah, so this is Chris. So the idea that I understand in zero trust is you start with no trust. That's the whole concept of zero trust. And so if a device goes, or a user or an access goes out of compliance with what would be the acceptable trust level, it should automatically be blocked. My concern is I hear a lot of, this will identify issues that you can go look into, and to me, unknowns and patch levels being out of sync are, to me, it's kind of contrary to the concept of zero trust, where you are sort of implicitly trusting those and then saying, well, go look into it and see if now we don't trust them. To me, that's backwards.
Okay, so this is riding on top of the products that would kind of block it, like a UEM tool. So for example, UEM would block those devices themselves. That would show up in Sphere. So when I talk about troubleshooting, or maybe a user calling in and saying, hey, my email's not working, we would identify more so why that email is not working, because that device fell out of trust. Does that make sense?
Yeah, sort of. But I guess my point is, to me, one of the biggest benefits of zero trust is that you are automatically handling all those things. And if you get, to me, your zero trust has failed if we get to the point where your product is providing that visibility, because you're basically saying the automatic analysis of the trust level has failed, and now we've got these indicators that something's gone really bad. And to me, this is kind of the challenge that we have in this concept is, all these things really need to work together seamlessly, right? Because if you've identified that should be fed back to the beginning. And I think that's where I think a lot of this stuff is we're still at the conceptual level for a lot of this stuff, and everybody's trying to get together and figure it out on their own. But really, there needs to be a communication protocol between all of these things that talk together, so that they can then communicate. Because if your solution is identifying these problems, those should be blocked, automatically by something else, and this should be fed back into that loop. So that's kind of, to me, the challenge with a whole bunch of standalone products that do, one little niche of zero trust.
Yeah, so that's kind of the idea. I see, I understand where you're going with this. Yeah, so no, that makes sense. And you know, obviously what we're working towards with Sphere is you know, from an admin perspective, giving not necessarily getting those products talking to each other, but showing you where the, you know, maybe that trust, that chain of trust was broken. Um, so you don't have to go figure it out yourself. Or was it not that, you know, that device is blocked because of, you know, even a trust issue? It's just it's some other issue in your environment that's going on, that, you know, you need to get in there and solve as well. How does the sync happen? I dialed in late from the back end. How does your product sync to the network environment? Michael Brandt, are you still on here?
Yes, I am.
Do you want to, you could probably speak to this much better than I could from a technical perspective, but how we're connecting into all the network environment and sync times, things like that?
Yes, I mean, there are two components to this. So typically Sphere is basically a SIEM tool. So we're using all typical network monitoring capabilities, all the other tools around in the market do have. So we are not away from any standard using like SNMP, using WMI, as you said in your presentation, Jimmy, or basically simple log file parsing, syslog, and so on. So we're gathering, let's say, all this information, and the goal here is to do all of this in lifetime. And of course, it needs certain connectivity to internal network components or infrastructure components, as well as outside component, as we know, let's say, more customers and services also in the federal government, they're moving over to cloud services. So, and again, the information we're retrieving here are, let's say, a mix of basically SIEM components, but also very deep integration of the available APIs. Like Microsoft is continuously extending their graph APIs, so which we utilize for the different information we retrieve, and also from all other components. And that again, to the previous question, is yes. So we are trying to give a consolidated view of all the different components involved, including, if it comes to zero trust, like MTD solutions and other things. But what we have right now in most environments is there's such a view is not available. And if it comes to an issue, like basically a simple thing like a certificate expires somewhere in the trust chain, yes, the device is blocked, but you have to dig into, let's say, a lot of information on logs in order to visualize this or find actually the issue would cause blocking a certain device. So that's where we're coming from, and that's why the tool is helpful.
Awesome. Thanks, Michael.
Mm-hmm.
And then I see another couple in here, and it looks like they may be related, but can alerts from your product be sent out for ingest by other elements of an overall zero trust solution? For example, when there's a change in the state of the end device, could that send an alert triggering reauthorization? And is everything in the GUI available via API? So I think what both of those are asking is can Sphere can Sphere actually push changes to other products associated with zero trust? And I would think the answer would be yes, just assuming the APIs could communicate. So you know, as
Yes.
long as go ahead.
Yeah, yes. I'm sorry, don't want to outbridge me, but yes, so we have service automation integrated in the tool. And again, it's depending if the third-party tool we are monitoring, and if the API allows us to remote access certain actions in those environments, and we're also able to proactively block certain communication on top of the zero trust solution in place. Again, a simple thing is zero trust is remaining on a device, and so it gets a lot of user interactivity and other stuff going, and goes also in transactional details. Typical example: you are in a roaming situation, travel overseas, and the connected carrier is trying to push applications data to your device, which could be compromising. And so some solutions detect this, not all solutions detect this. So we are as well tracking this on top of the security solutions or threat detection solutions sitting on a device, and gathering this data and do an analytics, also running our AI engine to this to detect any unusual behavior like memory increase, application size changes, version changes, and so on. Even we can trigger something like somebody switched a SIM card on a device and using device in a different with a different phone number or different carrier. So we're trying to detect those things, and then gets an automatic action depending on the roles and rights management in the system to do a service automation, block the device, inform an admin, or even inform the end user and saying, hey, your device is blocked. So was this on purpose, or contact your IT department.
Fantastic.
Just a quick clarification point. That's a current capability or a future?
That is a current capability, of course. I mean, APIs are changing, functionalities are changing. That's an ongoing process to increase this functionality in the product.
All right. I think that got all the questions answered. So if there are no more, I'll wrap up. If anybody has any additional questions, you can, that's my email right there. So feel free to email me directly, and we can get them answered for you. And thank you for the time.
Thank you very much, Jimmy. I will stop the recording for a second here.